Apparently, my family cannot see giant signs that say filming on the door to my room. Unfortunately. So, starting again, I'm Emily. This is going to be a video about my cross-stitching, kind of an update since my last video, which I want to say was in November, although to be fair, I haven't gone back and checked. Suffice to say, it was a long time. I've decided that I'm going to make a couple of changes. I'm going to actually split my cross-stitching into one video and my knitting and stuff, cross-stitching and probably any other crafts, and then knitting and other like yarny type crafts into another video. So this is going to be the cross-stitching video. If you're not interested in cross-stitching and you usually just watch me for the knitting, you'll want to wait till next week, and then that will be that video. If you're interested just in the cross-stitching, you'll want to be here, and if you're interested in both, well, you're going to get two videos, so yay! Just as a heads up, and I'm going to talk about this more in the yarn one for hopefully obvious reasons, I am going to be changing my channel name before my next video. So my next video is going to come out under the name Emily Dyes Fiber rather than Emily R. So if you're subscribed and you're going, who's this Emily Dyes Fiber chick? That's me. That, I believe, is everything that I want to say. Like I said, I'm going to talk about that in more detail in my next video because it has to do with dyeing yarn. So, for right now though, let's stick to the cross stitch. If you're new, hi, that's awesome. I'm glad to see you. If you're returning, hi, I'm super glad you didn't unsubscribe in the time between my last video and this video. So hopefully you'll like this. It's always really interesting to me doing a cross-stitching video in May, because this has been true for the last couple of years. People are doing Stitch Mania, which if you're not familiar is basically a challenge to yourself to do something a little bit crazy, a little bit out of your comfort zone. The original idea, I believe, was to start 15 projects in the first 15 days of May, and a lot of people are doing starting projects. A lot of people are doing, if they usually switch, doing sticking with just one project. A lot of people are like working on past whips that they started in the previous Mays. You know, it's kind of a really flexible, do whatever you want, just do something a little crazy sort of deal, and I can never participate. Even with as flexible as it is, May is always the month where I'm like, okay, I'm in a groove, and this groove feels really good, and I'm going to stick with it. So, no Mania. Sorry, people who want Mania videos. This is just going to be what I've been doing. So, for the record, what I've been doing is I've been working on 4 projects with 1 week at a time and swapping between them. So you're going to see 4 projects that I've worked on. I actually have 5 or 6 projects going. I think it's just 5, but one of them I'm waiting until I get this project done. So the first project I've worked on since a long time ago, I don't remember where any of these were the last time you saw them because it's been like 6 months. So I'm just going to show you where I am on them. So the first project that I'm working on is the 12 Days of Christmas sampler from Plum Street Samplers. It was a free pattern back in the weeks leading up to Christmas of 2015, so I'm a little bit behind. I'm doing this 1/1 in just various DMC flosses on some random 28 count fabric, 28 count linen I got at a thrift store. So I have my first day. I think that was done when last you saw it, and I finished the second day, and I've begun the third day. It's a little bit awkward because it's a very see-through linen. Okay, maybe you can see it better this way. It's a see-through kind of burgundy red linen, and then I'm doing it with a green and then a gold and just black. And I'm going to have it as a little, it's going to be tiny. Like I said, it's 1/1 on 28 count. So this is going to be tiny, and it's going to be a 4x3, and my plan is to make it like a little, probably like stand-up thing that can sit on my desk around Christmas. I'm not a big Christmas person, but I actually do like the 12 Days of Christmas Carol, so I thought it was cool. It's not my usual style, to be honest, in stitching, but I thought it was cool, and I wanted to give it a try, so that's going well. I believe that this week is the week that I'm going to be working on that, so I'm going to be working on that later today, if I get to it. I've been doing it on basically assigning each project to a week and work on it that whole week, in theory. In reality, I usually work on it for 3 or 4 days of that week, so I don't make as much progress as I would like, but what can you do? So that was the first project I've worked on. The second project I've worked on, which I'm super excited about. Oh, my tripod is really close and I just kicked it, sorry. My second one is the Flower of the Month series by Ellen Maurer-Stroh. It was a 2010 stitch along with 1 flower per month. I didn't start it until like maybe 2 years ago, so I obviously did not start it in 2010. But it's all free and available on her website, and I will have links to where you can find all of the things that I've talked about down in my description box below. The 12 Days of Christmas is a free one, and I believe it's still up on the Plum Tree Sampler blog. This one is a free one, and it should still be up on her website, especially given that I looked up what her name was today. It should still be there. So I finished, I was partway through July. I suspect that I had done this lighter blue flower, but not the darker blue flower and the butterfly when last you saw it. So I finished that. This is being done 3/2 on a 28 count. So it's like 14 count because I'm doing it over 2 strands. I'm using 3 strands of floss. So 3/2 on this 28 count. It was originally just a white Monaco, but I dyed it with a brown Rit dye. So I did July, which was the Larkspur, and you can see I've chosen to add the name of the flower, no, the name of the month and the name of the flower, because I'm going to cut these apart and do one per month, and I want to be able to remember like which month I'm supposed to put up which one. The other thing I'm doing differently is this was originally charted to have a light brown for these 2 borders, partly because she was intending you to put them all together, I think, and the brown would match across them. I've chosen to do the brown, instead of brown, to do the darkest green in the that month as my border, because they're going to be individual, so I don't need them to match, but I do want them to coordinate with the flowers. So after I finished July, I started November. I had to double check. It's November, and it's going to be a chrysanthemum. And the way that I'm doing these, oh, my nose itches. I'm sure that those of you who film are aware of how rapidly your nose starts itching. The way that the reason I'm doing July and then November is I have 2 pieces of fabric that will each hold 6 of these. And I've gone ahead and marked out with a erasable pen, kind of like divided the fabric into 6ths. And then I looked at each 6th, and I looked at each month, and I went, okay, based on how the variegation is, which flower do I want to put on this 6th? And then I kind of figured out where I want to do it. So you can actually see like this is a little bit lower than this because I wanted this a little bit higher, so I would get this variegation showing up. So I'm working on November chrysanthemum. And yeah, it's coming along. I like it. I'm really looking forward to getting back to this one. It's my largest stitch size piece because it's 2/2 on 28 count, so it's effectively 14 stitches per inch. So it kind of feels like it goes faster. I will say the 3/2 does make it go a little bit slower because the 3 strands make a very, very thick coverage, and so I have to be a little bit careful how I put my needle through so I don't, you know, stitch into a previous stitch kind of a deal when I'm dealing with the area where I've got other stitches around it. I like it. I like really full coverage on my pieces, and that is what the original pattern called for. However, because I did hand dye this, and I hand dyed this in hot water, and it, with a Rit dye and it's cotton, it did shrink some, so it's actually probably closer to like a 30 count. So it's probably closer to 15 stitches per inch rather than 14. The original pattern called for 3/2 on 14, and I think it would be a little bit less dense and a little bit less of a pain if I were doing it on an actual 28 count 14 piece. But I like it, and I don't think I would have liked the coverage of 2 nearly as much, but it's just something to think about if you decide to do that pattern. I stitch fairly tight, so my stitches tend to have not as much coverage as if I were a little bit looser, but I'm tight on my cross stitch, I'm tight on my knitting. It's just, that's the way it is, and I've learned to work with it. There's a knitting thing that I'm doing on like 4 sizes up of needle from what the designer recommended or something, just because I knit tightly. But we're not talking about knitting, we're talking about my cross stitch. So those were my 2 little sampler pieces that I can't actually show you what they're going to look like in the end because I just have charts for them. The next 2 pieces that I've been working on are my Heaven and Earth designs, because I kind of love Heaven and Earth designs. I've not finished any, I've not gotten beyond what these 2 have, but I love the way that you get like a whole painting in cross stitch. So the first one is For Heavenly Beasts, by artwork by Kaomi Harai. It is gorgeous. It's a little bit small for a full-size Haid, I believe. I'm doing it with a large size chart, and it's only 32 pages, which, okay, first of all, only 32 pages, but I'll tell you what the page count on my other one is, and you'll see why I say only 32 pages. So each page is fairly big. I've started up here in this corner, and I've gotten a pretty decent ways. So I've done the first page, the second page, and then I've come down and I'm doing this third page. I'm going to go diagonally, so that way I don't end up doing boring stuff and then all the interesting animal faces and then just have a bunch of boring stuff left. I'm going to try to kind of spread it out. So I'm currently working down here. As you can see, Tiger's butt is coming along nicely. I am doing this 2/1 on 18 count Aida. I don't think it's white. I think it may be like an off-white or a antique white or something. It doesn't really matter because it's full coverage, so all you're going to see is this. I do have it gridded with a metallic floss, so that's that sparkly bit that you're seeing there. There is sparkles in this. All of the lightest light sections are Krynic. That's what it is, metallic floss. It's right in here, but I don't think that you're seeing that. I think that all of the sparkles that you see are from the silvery rainbow metallic thread I used to grid. And the way I've been working this, I've kind of been experimenting with different ways, but what I've settled into is I'm doing rows. I'm parking and I'm working in rows. Normally I do a 20 stitch row, but I had been experimenting with some other stuff, and so I'm doing a 10 stitch row to even things out, and then I'll do a 20 stitch row, and that I believe will be the completion of this third page, which is like page 9 or something. It's the third page I'm doing, so we're going to call it the third page. So that's what I've been doing. I've been making quite a bit of progress on that. And then because I'm one of those weird people who really likes data and likes working with Excel, I have an Excel file that tells me kind of, as I enter how many stitches I've done, it tells me things. So according to this Excel file, I have completed 9.46% of the chart, so close to 10%, not bad. I've used 67% of all of the colors in this chart. There's, I believe, 88 colors? Yeah, 88 colors. So I've used 67% of 88. I don't know what that is off the top of my head, but I've used a lot of colors in this. And my projected finish based on my current progress is going to be in 2044. So I should probably get cracking on this and go a little bit faster than I have been. So yeah. But I'll tell you what the projected finish date of my next one is, and 2044 will sound really reasonable. So my next project that I'm working on, in my last video I showed you 3 Heaven and Earth design charts that I had bought during a sale. And I ended up starting the one that I thought I was the least likely to start right away, which is Cliffhanger, which is this gorgeousness by Amy Stewart. I like reading, I like books, and I love the name. It's super punny. And so last one was 32 pages. This one is 132 pages. Yeah, it's not a supersize. There's a supersized version of this. I don't even want to think about that. 132 pages. Large size. Large size. Okay, large size. Just large size is worth it, by the way. It makes it so much easier to highlight off if you're going to be working off printed charts, which I do. Yeah. So, I started this relatively recently, and because it is absolutely freaking enormous, I am doing it 2/1 tent stitch on a 28 count Lugana. I want to say the color is Bone. I don't remember. I ended up finding a yard on eBay for a very reasonable price, and I bought that, and I used almost half of it for this. So that the little bit of this book here, that's what I'm working on. Yeah, we got a ways to go. So on this one, I'm working in tent stitch, which is basically half cross stitch. So instead of doing a cross, which I realize I just did from my perspective, so instead of doing a full X, you just do one side of it. And I'm working in continental tent stitch, which the type of tent stitch specifies what you do on the back of the work. So instead of going bottom to top and then straight down and then to top and then straight down, you go, how to describe it? You would be like bottom to top and then back this way to top and then back this way to top. And what that does is it helps prevent your fabric from warping, because when you're just doing it one way, you're putting tension on the fabric just that one way. And it also provides more coverage on the back, which can kind of, I think, helps look denser on the front. I've noticed on some of my spots where I don't have any coverage on the back, it just definitely seems a little bit lighter. So for example, my back is incredibly dense because I'm working in such a way that there will be extra floss back there. Apparently when I was like looking up continental tent stitch, I think it comes from needlepoint. There were a couple different types of tent stitch that needle pointers did. Continental tent is typically what cross stitchers are advised to do instead of cross stitching. And I will actually be sure to insert the video that I learned how to continental tent stitch on down below. It's actually a video by Carolyn Mazzio on parking when you're doing tent stitch, and I think that's the one that I'm thinking of. I'll double check. That one, I'm not parking, obviously. I am stitching cross country with a single strand until I run out of that strand, and then I go back up. So basically I started with the very first stitch and I picked that color and I did as much as I could until I ran out of that color, and then I picked the next color and I did as much as I could till I ran out. So the next spot I'm going to pick that color and I'm going to do as much as I can until I run out of thread or until I run out of room on this page, and then I'm going to move on to the next color. I'm doing that because parking with continental tent stitch is a royal pain in the patoot, and I was not interested in doing that, so I decided to do this cross country. It's a little bit unfortunate. Cross country tends to stress me out because I'm always trying to figure out the most efficient route to take, and if I don't have the most efficient route, I feel like I'm doing something wrong. And I also tend to make more mistakes with cross country than I do with parking, so I have mixed feelings on that. But I'm doing it with half as many stitches because I'm only doing, well, it's like half as many stitches because I'm only doing one side of each stitch. I'm hoping this makes some degree of sense. So it is going faster than it would otherwise, which is a really good thing because I have done 0.71% of this chart. Not 7.1%. 0.71%. Less than 1%. I'm about 2/3 done with the first page. Yeah. I've used 25% of the colors though, so yeah, I get the colors in pretty early. And my projected finish date, if I continue at the pace that I'm currently going, is going to be in 2086. Which is, you know, still technically within my possible lifespan. But, yeah, I kind of want to speed this sucker up a little bit. But I do like it. It's been interesting to do. I like having a variety of different styles of stitching that I can swap between, so that is nice. And I'm going to love how it comes out, and I'm just going to try to do more. I do think that if I continue with the kind of rotation I've been doing where I load one of these projects into my stand and I just leave it out for a week and I work on it whenever I can, which is usually 3 or 4 hours, so, you know, not a lot, but it's better than when I don't do that and I get bored of one and I don't change it, and then I'm not working on it, or I'm like, oh, I'm not going to work on this because I'm supposed to change, and then I don't want to change. I hate changing stuff. I don't do daily rotations at all, ever. It's a terrible idea. No, it's not true to say ever. I tried once. It was a terrible idea. I will never do it again. So, where I was going with that side route, clearly I need to practice staying on topic more because it's been since November since I filmed. Not that I ever stayed on topic to begin with. This is what it is. So, I'm thinking that I'll probably be progressing faster because both of these Heaven and Earth designs do have periods where I was like, not working on my cross stitching for a month or two because I was doing other things and I had something I didn't want to work on my stand. I didn't want to change it or, you know, whatever. So I've been doing a bit better lately about being consistent. So I'm hoping that I will continue to be consistent. As you can probably tell, I stitch on Q-snaps preferably. This one, my 12 days. My 12 days I do put on a teeny tiny hoop because, yeah, you're not finding a Q-snap to fit that. I like stitching on Q-snaps. I tend to take the piece off of the snap when I'm not working on it so that it's not under tension, and any stitches that are under the Q-snap are not staying under there. But if I've gotten this successfully rolled up and out of my way, I do not change that because this is a giant piece of fabric and it was not fun to get it rolled up and out of my way. Grime guards made by me. I need to make more because I have one more Q-snap that doesn't have one. So, yeah, I think that's kind of my update where I'm at. I've made progress on all of those. I'm hoping that in a month I'm going to have a new update video and I will hopefully have a decent amount of progress for each of them. So, I think that is all I wanted to say. I'm planning on having a video next week about my knitting update. I can't remember if I said this in the beginning, but I'm tentatively planning to do 2 videos a month with knitting, yarny, etc. updates, 1 video a month with cross-stitching updates, and then 1 or 2, depending on how many weeks are in the month, videos with kind of other things like tutorials on what I'm doing and other random stuff. If any of that sounds interesting and you want to subscribe, I would super appreciate that. If you're thinking about only watching the cross-stitch videos, you might want to consider hitting the little notification bell because YouTube tends to think it's smarter than you are. And so it tends to go, oh, well, you haven't watched all of the videos by this person, so you don't want to see any of the videos by this person. So having it notify you may help you if you're planning on just watching the cross-stitch ones and ignoring the other 3 videos a month. Just as a heads up, YouTube thinks it's smarter than you are, and it's really not. So, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you have any questions, let me know down below. I will have in the description box down below links to where I got all of the projects that I'm working on so you can see those patterns. And yeah, that is everything. And I'm always suck at wrapping up videos, so I'm just going to say bye. See you next time.